Guys, welcome to the very first episode of Changing Gears. My name is Tunn. You'll probably assume me that one Gears event. How the hell I ended up there, who knows? But obviously I do have Frew and Darko with me. These two guys do know what they're talking about when it comes to Gears of War, of course. And guys, how's things going, Frew? Elliot tries to. But Frew, how's things going?
Yeah, great here. Enjoying the new game. It's good to see a new Gears on the block, and yeah, just living life, having fun.
Living life. How's things, pal?
Uh, yeah, my internet's really slow at the moment, so apologies if I cut out for anyone else for anyone out
You're
there
good.
who's watching. Loving the game. Very, very good. My impressions so far
Right.
of it. There's a
Okay.
couple of things that, yeah, I don't think.
We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it.
Yeah, well, obviously we'll get into it, but yeah,
We'll get
yeah,
into
loving the game for now.
Yeah, for now. Well,
For now.
I think, if anybody is in here and watching this for the first time and sort of wondering what route we're going to go down with this, it's basically going to be opinion show, that sort of thing. We're going to try and discuss Gears every single week. Of course, right now, we're going to be talking about the new game that's just come out, discuss what we like, what we don't like, what we like to see changed, etc. But as the weeks go on, we will be getting regular guests coming in, so we'll try and get some of the players to come online from Europe and America, of course. Obviously, it's easier for us to concentrate on Europe because, obviously, with being in Europe. But we're going to try and get personalities from all over Gears on this show as much as we can. We will have gameplay at some point within the next couple of weeks, not today, unfortunately, just because the idea was we are going to do the final, but I also don't want to keep you guys here till inevitably the early hours of the morning. A lot of people have got work to go do. So I'm sure I don't want to drag you through all of that, but throughout the rest of the weeks, we are going to be trying to do as much gameplay as possible as well, because our Thursday Cups are going on right now. We have 32 teams sign up. Starts at 7 p.m. every single Thursday with cash prizes, so get amongst that one, of course. But here we are. We are going to discuss the brand new game. Gears of War 5 did come out the other week. We've all been playing since early access launch. You can still get it, I do believe, on the Ultimate Game Pass for £2. I think it was £2 for the first 2
Yeah,
months.
sounds about right.
Is one I got. So, £2 to play Gears for 2 months. You decide you like it. Obviously, you will, and you continue on playing. It's actually quite nice to have the Game Pass there. It's a different iteration of obviously just going to buy games, etc. But I've enjoyed having that because it offers people like a trial of the game. I actually quite like it. It also meant I could play the game early for £2. What's not to
Bargain.
like? What's
Bargain.
not to like? Elliot, are you sorted out, mate?
Yeah. Sorry, my internet is seriously having some trouble. So apologies.
You're
Yeah,
good,
no, I'm
mate.
fine now. Should be fine now. I've moved it closer to the other room.
Come closer to the router.
As an update. Yeah, I don't live in the new generation, the new world.
Yeah, Elliot's living in the
I'm
1850s.
still
at
on
this point.
bandwidth. Okay, I'm still on B. I'm still on Tiscali. So
It's Skilly. Wow.
AOL. No,
Brilliant.
I think this has been an ongoing thing whenever we've done anything with UL. It's just sort of just like, so what do I do? Is this Discord? What? It's just trying to joke up. There's always a laugh.
Cup and string. That's what we need.
But
mean-
first, go on.
I was going to say, to be fair, I know Zoom because of work. So when you put that app in the Twitter, I was like,
Magic.
"Gee, this is my jam.
This
my
is your world.
You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I do this every day. I know how to use this app. But no, yeah, I'm all good now. Should be all good.
Cool. Well, let's get into it then. Gears of War 5 obviously just did release the other day. Impressions first and foremost. Through what do we think from the offset with Gears 5? We'll go through everything that we think is worth talking about, but
Yeah.
first impressions of the game.
Just general impressions. I really like it. I think it's a good step in a very forward direction for the franchise. And in comparison to Gears 4, I think it's a step up as well. Looking forward to seeing how it really kind of starts to settle down competitively for sure. But in general, yeah, it's a thumbs up.
El, what you saying? Your impressions of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the changes they've made from Gears 4 have been very impressive. I'm sure we'll get into this in more depth, Alex, but talking about damage consistency with the shotgun, it's definitely a plus and definitely a thumbs up for me. So in my first impressions, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't understand the maps, it's probably like everyone else does. So maybe I can't comment on, in depth the maps and maybe some of the weapons that they've introduced into the new game. But yeah, definitely play it from a play perspective. My first impressions is good. Yeah, liking it a lot.
Yeah, I think we'll touch straight on the weapons then, because you did turn and say that the damage consistency with the shotgun is definitely there in Gears 5, whereas in Gears 4 it was maybe wanting on odd occasions. You feel that this is like an overall power upgrade for all the weapons? Because I remember me and you were playing the other day through, and we were commenting on how pretty much all the weapons seem pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm. I'll let you go first because I got a few comments on this, but I want to hear your views on this.
Go on now.
With the shotgun consistency,
just the weapons overall pretty powerful.
Yeah, they are 100%. The shotgun is, I think, if you look at it when you're in those kind of 1-to-1 battles, I think we talked about this as well. The fights, the shotgun fights don't play as long as they did in Gears 4. There's definitely, if you hit 2 good shots from a reasonable distance, that person is pretty much going to go down, no matter the connection on either side. So that's a real bonus for me. I feel like it makes it a lot more competitive. There's a lot more onus on hitting your shots and making sure you're saving the shot and not just using it frivolously. So yeah, I mean, the other weapons, the Lancer, that's definitely very powerful. I feel like some of the weapons definitely could take it. I think TC need to look at nerfing. And the Marks are being one of them. That gun is literally ridiculous.
It's pretty good.
It's Jesus. I mean, if you're playing against someone who's good with the Marks, you're not moving at all against that person. So, I think some of the weapons could definitely take a nerf, but the core weapons, the Lancer, the shotgun, the pistol, I think are spot on at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah, Frew, you had something to add on that?
I generally agree, to be honest with you. Obviously, everything is a little bit stronger than we're kind of used to. Marks 100%. I think we need to maybe see a little bit more of the game, see how it kind of plays out a little bit more before we start really saying, yeah, it definitely needs a nerf. But
yeah,
first impressions, I'd agree as well. I think maybe an extra bullet or something for a down would be a welcome change. But Nasher, I think, is in a nice place. I think it's one of those. It's kind of going to be a little bit chalk and cheese for some players, because some players really like the kind of like 3-shot battles you used to get on Gears 4, especially with the that combined with a kind of quicker, not quicker movement, but more rapid movement, I suppose, is probably how the games can be described. They kind of balance each other out, whereas this is, I feel it's a little bit slower gameplay wise, but I also think the shotgun is much more do or die. If you get shot, you don't have as much opportunity to kind of look your way out of a situation. You've either got to make the right choice right there and then, or you're probably going to get taken out. So there's a little bit more of a it's much more 50-50 die or don't, depending on your action, rather than maybe just press A a bit more.
So maybe it's created a game where outplaying is going to be maybe a little bit more difficult on Gears 5 in comparison to Gears 4. Obviously, with those inconsistencies we saw last year in the weapons, then that obviously did come into play where you can sort of start bouncing around, start to get things going. Whereas now, I mean, even as somebody who... Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an awesome Gears of War player. Really not. Just generally not a very good gamer. But at the same time, I think,
you're not bad, Chris.
I'm alright, mate. I'm alright. Coming into it, like, for me, I think it's good to have my perspective, because I've not ever been somebody who's been, like, the top level of Gears or anything. I am as average as an average player online as you're ever likely to see. And for me, I found this game somewhat of an easier curve to pick up. And I think that probably pays testament to what we have seen with the weapons, etc. Coming in from the chat there, Crow, I don't know if that's Colin. I don't know in the... Is Colin's last name Crow? Who knows?
No, this is different Colin.
Different Colin.
A different Crow, sorry.
Different Crow.
It's not Colin.
But yeah, the Marks and the Boltar both need nerfing, and it does seem that way, that these long range weapons are looking pretty good because of everything. Everything seems pretty powerful. It means you can't move off cover very much, and when you are moving off cover, if you're going against something that is insanely powerful on headshots wise, then it's going to be an issue. But I think with it being the start of the new game, that was always going to happen. There's always something, isn't there? There's always something, and it doesn't matter what game you play. It doesn't matter if it's Gears of War, Call of Duty, anything. There is always a gun at the beginning of the game, or a couple of guns at the beginning of the game that are powerful, and hopefully, what we see from that is TC potentially change them. Anything else on the weapons that you like or don't like, Elliot?
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, in terms of the weapons, I think my response to that is just the Boxer needs nerfing, but nerfing. I personally, and this is only my personal opinion, because some people will agree, some people will disagree, but I think the core weapons, as I said there, I think they're in a great place, and I think that TC would be stupid to change them. Unless I think personally, I think it is in their interest to keep it like it is, because I do think it makes for a very competitive game at the moment. But just going to your point there, there's always going to be teething problems with any game that comes out initially, and that's just the nature of the gaming world. But I feel, I think it should be for TC to be reactive. If these problems become an issue for the competitive scene, and the ranked scene and the public scene, then obviously that I'd like to see them be reactive to that, and be a lot more proactive in changing those issues.
I think that all relies on the data they receive, right? They're going to be looking at escalation as a whole, I'm sure, and kind of making sure everything is in line with one another, or in line with what they expect to see. But you're right. I think not making any rash decisions is the best course of action. The tournaments that we're running now with EGL, there'll be a good testing ground for a lot of teams to kind of really figure it out, and then give some honest and constructive feedback back to the development team when they get the opportunity to. So I think there's a process, and we're super early on in that. But as far as launch weapons go, they could have been a hell of a lot worse, and I think they're in a pretty decent state. New weapons as well, maybe something we should touch on.
Yeah, can we talk about the mace?
We can talk about the mace.
Can we talk about the mace? Right.
Okay. It needs to be out the game.
If
I get mace one more time in ranks, okay? What is it? Okay, we're not playing Halo. It's not Destiny. Yeah, get it out the game.
So you feel pretty strongly about this.
If it's in competitive, I'm hanging myself. That's not a lie. You've heard it here first.
It's something that I don't even want to say it's split. I think everyone's under the impression that it is very, very powerful. I mean, to the point where I am running around laughing. Like, literally, I think for me, if they reduced it to the point where it doesn't go through cover, then I can sort of be like, all right. But I think the fact that it goes through cover, there is nothing you can really do other than run, or just hammer them down before they get even
That's
near
assuming
you.
You see them, right? Like,
Well,
it could be a full height cover. It's looking to hit you.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple issues. I think for me, the drop shot for me is something that I think is, for me, it's really quiet. I can't hear that. It's flying towards me. I can't hear a thing. I don't know if it's just me that's coming up with this, and nobody else has mentioned this, but like every single time I'm going up against somebody with a drop shot, I don't hear it. It just goes, shoot, and I'm dead. Like, I hear it at the very last second. I don't know if anybody else is sort of there with that, but there is a couple of the power weapons especially. I think, when we're talking about the Lancer, maybe a little bit powerful. The shotgun's where it should be. The pistol is pretty much in and around where we probably expected, but a couple of the power weapons for me seem a little bit over the top.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was going to say that the drop shot. Yeah, I mean I have seen. To be fair, I don't really use the drop shot, and
no, I can't use it. That's why I don't.
I haven't enough experience of being someone using it against me in myself dying. So, I mean, I've played a lot of ranked, and I can't kind of remember a situation where I've noticed that, but I have heard people say that before. I think I was going to say the boom shot. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but that's been massively nerfed, isn't it?
I wouldn't be able to say, even if I did know. I don't know, but I've noticed it feel a little bit weaker in certain situations.
I'm pretty sure I boomed someone on their legs and they didn't die and rolled off back home for a sausage sandwich. Because I'm telling you, honestly, yeah, because that was, I don't know if you guys have used the boom, or maybe the chat have.
I've not had problems with it, but I've seen a lot of people complaining about it, so I think there's probably something there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, other power weapons, I feel, the boom maybe, I personally feel like it's been a little bit nerfed. the rifles, the long shot rifle and the M bar seem pretty good. I mean, I really like. To be honest with you, I'm not very good with the sniper. Never have been. Since
I quite like how the snipe feels in this one. I've enjoyed using it.
Yeah, I like the target. The target, in my opinion, is brilliant. I think that is kind of more.
Because we've got new improved reticles for all the weapons, right? So
yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah,
that's something that's come in this game.
I definitely love that.
Yeah, I think it's a good change.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on to something I'm surprised hasn't been mentioned yet. Can we talk about flashbangs?
Flashbangs, yeah. I mean that's a topic on its own, right?
Oh yeah, I think it is indeedy. Right, okay. So I get the idea behind them because it is something that can help break a hill, or that's what it's going to be used for. It is for breaking, but I don't know if it's maybe like I'm somebody who's played more King of the Hill than anything. I think it's just I like jumping in, being fast and frantic, and we'll go on to talk about escalation, but it's maybe a little bit slower this year than it potentially has been in previous years. Well, just last year. But I think that I understand the use of the tool, but something that's definitely overpowered for me.
Yeah, I think you kind of got to look at the problem first, right? And the problem was the smoke grenade. Everyone got them. They pretty much covered the map on any opening initial, and you really didn't get a sense of what that opening fight was, which was a massive problem for spectating as well, right? It's something you can't really see what's going on. We're hovering the camera as far away from people as we can, and all you can see is smoke, and it's not a good viewing experience. Not particularly. You're right, El. It's not particularly a good. It's like a train was going through your room.
I moved the chair. Sorry, the chair's got in the left. Apologies.
And yeah, like as a player as well, it was very difficult to kind of work out what was going on. Realistically, there wasn't a massive difference whether you misplayed or not, because you're just going to see anything as well as being stunned. So the idea is that you split those two things. You put your cover onto your smoke, and you put your stun onto your flashbang, and hopefully that solves the problem. But realistically, the flashbang covers as much as the screen as the smoke did, and when you have 5 of those thrown at you in King of the Hill, as you mentioned, it can get a little bit frustrating. It's a bit too much. I think maybe some people were saying remove the stun so you can shoot.
Yeah, that would be it for me.
Saying remove the effects, or bring the effects back in. I think maybe it's a question of both. I think if I would bring the stun in ever so slightly, and I'd remove the effect, or I'd reduce the effect if you weren't looking directly at it. That's kind of how I'd sort that problem. But I've seen a lot of suggestions floating around Twitter. Obviously, you guys probably have different opinions on it as well.
L, do you like being blinded?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's one of those things that as it's always the way every new, and I've found this with the community, that every new thing that comes into the game, the kind of instant immediate reaction is to kind of not complain about it, but obviously have problems with it. I don't know. I feel like it hasn't been used enough in competitive yet for me, or I haven't seen it personally enough yet in a competitive scenario enough for it to kind of make a comment whether or not it should be in the game, shouldn't be in the game, or should be changed for the, as you say, maybe it's being able to shoot when you're kind of initially stunned. I don't know. It's hard. I think it definitely brings a lot more strategy to the game, especially with escalation, having to, you can pick the flashbang or put it down for certain people who don't
or the
have
smoke.
that.
Yeah,
the smoke. I think it does kind of bring a more kind of strategic element to the game. I mean, maybe you can change it a little bit, who knows, but I'd definitely like to see it in, the first, I guess for me, I'd like to see it like LAN for the first time and see what it's like in LAN, how annoying it is and what the repercussions of using it are. I'd like to see that first before then making a judgment and saying this should be out of the game or this shouldn't be in the game.
Yeah, I don't think
this shouldn't be in the game. Because I personally think for those setups, I think it is quite a nifty tool to use to break those setups. We've seen in Gears 4 some setups when you're playing a very team. I mean, this is I personally think I'm sure we'll get into this as well. This is kind of a more team-based game in my opinion. But I do think it's all, if you're trying to break a setup and you're not just getting lanced down by 4 or 5 people, it could be kind of a new element to the game that kind of helps break up that setup. But I don't know. I think ultimately for me, I'd like to see it in a competitive scenario like a LAN or something first before I make a judgment on it and say whether it's going to be.
I think Desky's got a good point in the chat actually. There's also the difference between King of the Hill and Escalation in that you only get 2 people spawning with it off the bat, right? So it's a little bit less obnoxious, I guess. In that Escalation setting.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things as well that if it was maybe nerfed down, we've already talked about how powerful the weapons are overall. Would that make things even harder to then break? Okay, you've got this tool to break something. I think, El, you partially brought that up, is the fact that if you are lobbing that in there and it's not doing anything, then it's going to be hard to cover ground if they've got some sort of really good setup on a certain hill or whatever, or a certain point. So I think I think you're right in saying that some adjustments here or there wouldn't be a bad thing, but the repercussions from that might be maybe a little bit stronger than some people maybe first thought.
I just like to bring up a point. I personally, in my experience of scrimming and playing competitively at some very average level or low level, I don't actually think smokes are that useful. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're useful for maybe a transition on the map. Yeah. However, I don't think breaking a setup they're useful at all, because on Gears 4, I did see a lot that even though you kind of throw 2 or 3 smokes, people would still know where you are and still know where to shoot, even though the smoke's there. Right? And the tags, the tags, they kind of, I guess, make smokes a little bit less useless as well. But that's what I'm saying. Having a flashbang brings a new element to the game, right? And it kind of brings a new way of breaking that setup. I personally think I really like flashbangs, but as I said again, I'd like to see what I would like to see what they would do at maybe a LAN when the highest of the highest are competing against each other.
Hypothetically, what if you couldn't see tags through smoke grenades?
Sorry?
I'm just thinking hypothetically for the smoke. What if you couldn't see spots through the smoke grenades? If someone tags someone but they're behind a smoke grenade, you couldn't see the spot. That would help alleviate a bit of that issue.
Yeah.
And maybe makes that spot a little bit more of a bit more useful then, because you have to then rely on voice comms to pinpoint exactly where people are moving.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. For me personally, as I said, when I used to scrim with people who knew what they were doing when using a smoke, I just did kind of know where someone was when they're bolting through the smoke, and pick them off quite easily. So I mean, maybe you could change some elements around the smoke as well to make it a little bit more competitive. I don't know, but on the subject of flashbangs, I personally like them and think they are a good new element to the game.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Cool. I think that just about covers it for weapons. I think we pretty much covered everything to a point.
Just the claw.
Oh god, yeah, maybe the claw is something to speak about. That is somewhat too powerful for me personally. I know it's a big power weapon. It's one of these ones that's dropped in the middle. It's not everybody's getting one sort of thing. Of course, I'm talking maybe about King of the Hill, maybe it's a bit too much, but on Escalation, it's not something I believe. Can you drop it on your side? I think you might be able to.
Just the middle line, I think.
It's
right?
just the middle. Okay,
as far as I know, I need to check the weapon trees before we really start getting into any casting on this.
We could when we get into Escalation, when we start talking about that, maybe we can have a little look into it. But either way, the claw is something that is, again, I think it's not quite there with the mace of get it the hell out, but it's there with the it needs toned down just a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's an interesting weapon, right? It's got a completely different setup to the rest of the rifles in the game, in that it kind of speeds up its rate of fire and slows down and kind of chugs. It's a weapon that's been thrown together essentially by the swarm.
Could I double check here? And this, I'm so sorry. This is my inexperience of the game.
Raise a hand.
Played it. Is this the one which fires the grenades?
No, that's the gel.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, apologies. I haven't actually used the claw yet, so, I'm
out
of this conversation. Apologies.
The claw is essentially a rifle, built by the swarm, and it's kind of a bit shitty, right? Like they don't really have a good fundamental idea.
It's been thrown together.
What a weapon
it's a Gears of War AK-47.
Yeah, and basically that's what it is. It kind of chugs through the bullets. It's strong, but it's not really reliable, and it's one of those weapons where when it hits you hard. Not so much mace level, but hits you hard.
Yeah. That was something else we could talk about. Is the GL, the grenade launcher coming in on that Lancer. I think that's all right. Actually, I think maybe a bit more of an indication of the grenade launcher for me of where it's actually going, because I think it's quite hard to judge where it is. I know it isn't like absolutely killing in one shot every single time, but I think, maybe some more indication to know that that screaming hellfire is about to come over the top of your head would sort of be a good thing, so you can maybe try and get out. You can hear it, but you're not 100% sure if it's on you. So I think when I've been playing, like, if anyone hears that, everyone's like, shit. Like,
just it's got a very distinct sound to it, right?
Yeah, like, I was about to imitate it, then just thought about my
actual
career.
Go on.
No. But I think, that's something that, personally, I'm not too concerned of, but I would like to see some changes to it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just not sure where it sits as a like it's essentially the drop shot, right? Is what it is. It's just a different form of the drop shot, a little bit wider area of effect, and the added benefit of you've got a lancer attached to it as well, so you don't really have to drop your secondary weapon to use it. That said, I like it. I don't think it's horrendously ridiculous, and the times that I've been caught out by it, I probably deserve to have been caught out by it. I don't have too much of an issue with it at the moment, but
okay.
I can get it. Like, there isn't much of an indicator, right, as to where it is going, unless you see that targeting laser, and then you kind of get a full idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna brutalize it, if I'm honest, and just say it's absolutely ridiculous and it should be out of the game immediately. It's kind of on par with the hammer. Why there are flying grenades coming at me when I'm in someone's hill is just doesn't sound like Gears, to be honest with you.
I suppose if you got cover over your head, though, you're fine. Obviously, it's a
of course.
To a degree, because it fires from the gun, though. That's the issue, right? Is that it kind of comes point on and then goes up and down, rather than the drop shot where you kind of have to drop it straight in.
Yeah.
So they're.
I mean,
right.
I
to a degree.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there'll be, if it's in competitive, I'm sure there'll be competitive teams that can make use of it. I just personally feel it's a little bit too. I think because you get 3 grenades, don't you? Get 3 separate shots.
Yeah, maybe that needs to be toned down.
It's basically, maybe 1 potentially, not 3. I mean, it's then essentially its own power weapon. I don't know. Maybe I just think it's too early days until I see weapons like that at kind of very high competitive level. Then it's hard to make a judgment of how it's gonna play out. It's all well and good using it in ranked, but then you're playing, monkey fart 3, 4, 5, and he's just running around with it, flying around everywhere. Do you know what I mean? So it's
still
like,
shitting on me, Al.
Still doing it. Well, actually, Chris, son. But but I mean, it just until it's used in a kind of very high competitive, scenario, it's hard to, I guess it's hard to make like an actual judgment. But for me, first impressions of it is it's a little bit ridiculous.
Okay, I think we can put in pin in weapons now. Our first impressions are lots of things are pretty powerful, maybe some tuning points, but we need to see them more at a high competitive level to make a final decision on whether some of these things do need change, and I'm sure that TC are keeping an eye on it. Let's actually move 100%. On and let's talk about the map. Something that can't change that much to a point. We know obviously points can be moved around, etc. But maps overall, what's the general feeling? Because, I mean, as somebody who is more of a casual player at times, coming into it, I think, first and foremost, and I know not a lot of people will maybe sort of berate me for this one, they look really good. I think the maps look great. I think, it's everything's pretty colourful. A couple of maybe a few little dark spots in and around there at times, but as a whole, what are we thinking on the maps? I like them, but again, I think it's hard to say unless you've actually played it in scrims, etc. I think pubs and scrims are a very, very different game. Yeah,
I think this is where we'll probably disagree a lot, El, because I'm pretty sure we kind of like different maps.
Go at each other. It's fine.
I mean, I'm just going to take this one first of all and say Bathgar needs to be removed from the competitive level and escalation. The rings are completely out of place. Unless they change that, it's a little bit ridiculous.
Again, though, I mean, look, if you were to say you maybe move the rings around, does it become a better map? Because I know a lot of people have.
I mean, I just think Vasgar's way too it's a little bit too uneven potentially. I mean, maybe if they change the rings, it could be a little bit more competitive. But I mean, generally, I think if we look at, I'm not going to go into each individual map and kind of pinpoint my thoughts, but I think generally as a collective, I feel the maps are fresh, they're new. Some of them are brilliant. Some of them are great. It's kind of, they've released, I think was it 6, Alex, or 6 to 8 new maps? Seven new maps, and there are a couple on there I disagree with from a for a competitive level, but then some of them I think are brilliant, and some of them I think are really good for competitive. I think Training Grounds is a fantastic map. I feel like it's a really
agree. My favorite map, I would say.
Competitive match, but I think a lot of people had that feeling from the beta, because I believe it. I didn't play the beta personally, but I understand it was kind of one of the key maps that was released in the beta. I think the exhibit is a good map as well. Personally, District I think is a brilliant map. I know some people don't like that map, but I think it's a brilliant map for competitive. I think there's a lot of angles there. There's a lot of different high ground on there. I think Icebound is. I don't like it personally. I know Alex loves it. But
is that just because of the ice, though? Because that's what puts me off Icebound.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's just imagine capping the ring and just like destroying all the ice around it. It's just it's impossible to get the ring back, isn't it? It's
but I mean, if you take, we map elements have been something that's been discussed. If that was out of it, would you like it?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think there are tweaks to all the maps they can make to potentially make them better. 100%. But I think generally, my general I think ultimately my perspective on them is it's new, they're fresh. I feel there's a lot of great points to them, and I feel like they've gone. I feel like the CC have gone the right way with some of these maps. So it's good to see them taking that step into the right direction.
Agreed, Al.
Well, there's definitely some stuff. I thought we'd disagree on more, to be honest with you. But
I wanted you to disagree on more. I want you at each other's throats every week.
Yeah, so you said you like Exhibit. I don't particularly like Exhibit. I think it's.
I think I might have got that messed up because I've just seen a comment on the chat. Can you remind me of what Exhibit is? I think
Exhibit's the one with the lasers museum, right? In the middle in the museum.
Actually, okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought Exhibit was the one with the train. Apologies.
Asylum.
That's Asylum. Exhibit, is terrible. I hate Exhibit. So,
that's it. Done.
Sorry. That map. The lasers.
Okay, so we agree on a little bit more. That's even weirder.
Yeah. Sorry. My apologies. I thought it was the one with the train. I got my.
Outside of the lasers, though, what's your issue with it?
So for me, it's basically an 8, right? It's a figure of 8, just kind of skewed sideways, and there's not much of a way to get between those two routes. You're kind of locked into a choice, and it's very hard to kind of be a reactive team on that map. You have to kind of just be proactive, win your fight, and from there you kind of work it out. The hills in the center, the downstairs hill, I don't mind too much. I quite like that actually. The hill on the bridge is, I mean, it's just a bit of a mess. Like there's a lot happening, right? Yeah. There's lasers going back and forth. You can kind of get shot. The bits of cover that you have are the two kind of pillar cases with something inside them, and you can get shot from them from the sides, from the little semicircle. So there's not much cover. Yeah, it's just a very difficult hill to hold and cap and break. Like there's so much going on.
It's one of those that's all or nothing, isn't it? It seems to be you need to either 3 or 4 man wipe them to even have a shot, or you need to commit everything to it and you'll get wiped and then you'll lose it. So I think you can trade away with lancers, but people are going to get picked up. It has to be a big push coming from somebody and it has to pay off. It's always going to be a risk to go for it. But I suppose that's sort of like, that is escalation.
It's different for sure, right? It's a different map. It definitely. I think the good thing about all of these maps is they all kind of play differently. And they hark back a little bit to the Gears 2 maps where you've got these interactive elements, which I personally loved, and it's some of the things that kind of really got me into Gears in the first place. Was like the Razor Hail, Tyro Stations train. Like there was a lot of cool things that I looked at and I thought, and these are different maps to every other game I see. So there is that. There's a feeling of that. In terms of what I do like, I like Bunker. I think it's too big, but I like the idea of it. I like the layout of it. Asylum is one I love. I think that's good, and I actually really do like the layout of Icebound. I think there's a lot of potential. I think in all of these maps, there's a couple of bits where you'd go, if there was just a route there, like District, a little route up from the bottom of the mid stairs may have been helpful up to the rooms. Likewise on Icebound, opening up that middle building a little bit more, because it's
one
all
route in, one route
pretty
out,
much,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's all or nothing.
I think I think for me to say the ice is like an icebreaker for that map. It's maybe a little bit yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, sorry, apologies. It's a little bit of a closed-minded thing to say. I think I'm going to agree with you, Al, in that the setup of that map is actually quite nice. For me, it was the ice that kind of broke that. There was a little bit of a deal breaker for that map.
But
so that's why I'm an icebreaker, deal breaker. My apologies.
We've had the benefit of actually playing that map on LAN. Well,
on LAN,
getting slapped
First
around,
LAN.
getting
Second
slapped around a
place.
bit on that map on LAN. But we have played it a little bit on LAN, and for me, I honestly didn't really notice the ice that much. Like I noticed the other team a hell of a lot more than getting shot by the ice.
I think personally it would be a case of how good a team could utilize the ice. I think if you're
but that's something that may
team,
differentiate teams, right? That's something that one team that could be really good at it maybe makes use of it, and they win that map against some of the better teams. Like it's little things like that may start to balance out the playing field a little bit more.
Yeah.
No, I do. I think maybe the higher ground on the icebound as well is a little bit.
But that's why I don't like training grounds, right? And I'm gonna say, I know you guys probably go, oh no, but training grounds for me is just a case of who holds the top wins, and once you've got those initial caps, there's not all that much you can do against a well set up team because they have the high ground.
There's a lot of space in between, isn't there?
The routes to push those high grounds. If you think of the balcony and you look at the two towers either side, those routes are basically small, narrow paths where the other team has a hard aim over the top of them on all of the way around the map. And Desky said in the chat with regards to exhibit, it's the top half of the map divided by a 4-centimeter bridge. That's the whole of training grounds for me. Is basically 3 tall areas.
Yeah.
Stuck with 4-centimeter entries that you can't really push to any degree.
It's hard to break, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but there are ways to do it, right? And the flashbangs come in useful there for sure. Likewise, the drop shots push people off the top towers. They're useful, but yeah, I'm not too sure on that one personally. I really like District though. I really like it.
I was just about to say, if flashbangs were taken out of the game, how much harder would a map like Training Grounds be?
Oh, exceptionally. It'd be so difficult to push.
So that's why I think the flashbangs, I guess, come hand in hand with maybe the maps being a little bit different to what we've seen in Gears 4, Gears 4, maybe Gears 3, Gears 1. You mentioned the Gears 2 is quite similar potentially, but perhaps that's why the maps are a little bit different because they're kind of utilizing the new elements of the game, like flashbangs, that stupid gun that can fire grenades from anywhere you want it to. Maybe these things are kind of come hand in hand, and if that's the case, again, it'd be great or be interesting to see how a very high, competitive team like the old Optic in the US or EU's finest in the EU take advantage of these little things they've changed about Gears of War 5.
Yeah, there's lots to think about.
Yeah, there is, and I think that is something to point out is that these are like small faults with maps that we feel as if they could be fixed. Frew, you would know it's not as easy just to go and fix a map and completely redesign it around anything. That's not how it works. But there are small little changes which could potentially make all of these maps really, really good. And there's a couple of them that already are pretty decent. However, to the point of if there was a few little changes here and there, I absolutely agree on the training grounds point. I think that all they need to do there is add a bit more cover on the pushes up top to get to the stairs or somewhere like that. There's little bits here and there, but it's the fact that they've got the height as well, so they can shoot down on you. It's like you can jump in the cover, but you're going to get a shot anyway. So I think, there's a couple of issues with maps. Overall, I like the majority of them. Maybe that's me being like rose-tinted glasses with that one, but at the same time, I think small changes to it could make them great, not just good. So I think that's pretty much where we are on that one. I want to maybe move on to escalation because we have seen some changes come into escalation, of course. The weapon system has now changed to sort of a tier system, hasn't it? Whereas to a point you put one weapon down, you can then upgrade it in the next round. And of course, the main change that did come in, respawns come into escalation. You only get 5 respawns each, and you get a respawn back after every single round, of course. But then if you run out of respawns, then obviously that does make things a lot harder. It's not a case of now just throwing bodies at hills. It's a case of maybe taking your time, playing your life a little bit more. It has slowed the game down quite significantly, I feel. Frew, what are your thoughts on the new escalation? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I like it, personally.
Yeah.
He made it.
I
Did.
didn't make it. I saw it being made. But
It was all you, I heard.
yeah, blame me, the lot of you.
Just imagine if he came out and said, "Yeah, it's bloody shit."
Hate
it. What were they doing in the studio when I was there? I don't fucking know. No.
There are things I like about it. There are things I don't like about it. I really like the introduction of the live system.
Yeah,
we
I think
saw
it's good.
Yeah, we saw a lot of players in the previous games just kind of playing 100 miles an hour, which is, sometimes fun to do and sometimes fun to watch, but realistically, there's not a lot of thought going into it. And
it's just like headbutting each other in the middle of the
yeah,
map.
Essentially, who headbutts each other hardest, and that person wins. Whereas now there's a kind of a lot more thought to it. There's a lot more taking your time. Is this the right fight? Is the question that people should be asking themselves. Is this the right time to spend a life as well? Because you can choose to respawn. Yeah, and sometimes the answer is no, right? Sometimes that life will be better spent in a later round. But there is always that payoff. I think lives wise, there are slightly too many lives. I think we should start with either 4 or 3 lives, personally, just because
I'd never make it past round 4th through.
In a comp setting, you usually see like the first spawn kind of going in and losing their lives a little bit more often than the rest of people, right? Because they're essentially the one that always gets focused. So in that regard, I can see why 5 is 5, but the idea is that you want to be eliminating people, right? You want to be able to get those players down to 0 lives and really make them think about their choices. And I think at the moment we've got ever so slightly too many. I'd like to see it with 4, but let's see it played properly with 5 first before that change is made. It's kind of my stance on that. The weapons system and the placement, I like some of it. I don't like some of the other bits. I kind of like the tiering up into stronger weapons. I kind of feel like the weapons that you go into are very similar every game. And that is an issue for me. It was an issue for me in Gears 4 in that there wasn't enough diversity of weapons for teams to really have their own identity. So you go into a game of Escalation previously, and you kind of knew what was going to come down in kind of roughly what order as well. And it's a similar thing here. You get a grenade down on your home. You kind of maybe get a flashbang for one of your mates on front spawn or second spawn, and then you start to build that up until someone blocks it. You go center, then you come back once that block's done, and that's kind of how it plays out. But those weapons are pretty much always your drop shots, pretty much always your shot grenades and your flashbangs. You don't see much else. So I'd like to see more weapons get added to that kind of tier to make that a little bit more interesting. There's a comment that says you're always at a disadvantage if you place a center weapon. Not necessarily, because if you place a center weapon and you're confident at fighting about it and you win it, then you can kind of get there quicker. Yeah. And also
it's putting all your eggs in one basket.
It is a bit of a play, but there are also times where you can place that center weapon and you are an advantage, because say they're building up for a drop shot and you place the drop shot at a fight that you like, perhaps at the other side of the map, it stops them from being able to place the drop shot on their spawn. So it basically blocks their entire tier. Whereas you might have been building up elsewhere on the map, so you now have a bigger advantage in the second half. So there are times when you can use that center placement as an advantageous drop. I'd agree. It's more often not the case. It is more often better to place things home.
It's a risk.
Or in your hands.
Yeah.
But there are definitely teams that have done it in the past. The Latin American teams in the preseason invitational that we saw, they used to basically place marks in their hands and then center weapon everything, and that was interesting to see. It was different to how the other teams were playing it. It got them pretty far in the tournament.
Escalation. What we're saying?
I do like it. Yeah, I agree with the fact that having a limited amount of lives, it does play more slower play. It caters for slower play and not being so stupid and aggressive. I like that because I hate seeing 5 people fly around a map. It frustrates me because I'm always on the end of it. But
that's why they're chasing you.
Yeah, that's it.
See the danger man on the map. That's what it is.
The weapon thing. what are my thoughts on that? I guess I do like the element of kind of being able to build something up in, you know, your home or a hill that's very close to you. You know, sorry, a spot that's very close to your hill. I do like that because I mean, I personally, I don't know. It's very strategic. It makes the new escalation is a lot more strategic, which I like, and I think it's a lot more thought out, which is brilliant. Yeah, there are elements of it that I don't like. I think I agree with the disadvantage in the center. If obviously someone else is placing something at their home to give them an advantage to get that weapon, if both teams know the fight, but then the other team has something in their home where they can use to win that battle easily, more easily, then. Yeah, I guess it for me. Yeah, I guess it.
That's assuming that you're placing that center weapon at the point at which they can use their home weapons to fight for it, right? Like
well, that's it. Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah,
like, if you put it in the center next to their weapon, then that's your fault.
Yeah. I guess obviously it could just become every team doesn't place any center weapons. Some teams might not place any center weapons, and they'll just build up their homes, which will, I guess, from a viewer perspective, might make it a little bit more boring for viewers to watch, because they're just watching people pick up the weapons in their spawn and using them, and that could make for potentially slower play. So maybe that makes it a little bit harder to watch from a viewer perspective. I don't know. I guess it'll be interesting to see how that plays out again with the looking at the higher level. I guess it'd be interesting to see how escalation plays out for the next kind of 2 or 3 months. I definitely think it'll be up to TC to react if there are issues with that, if there are issues with maybe the viewers watching it, or the players having an issue with maybe some of the the spots or some of the kind of weapons you can place in certain areas. I feel the TC needs to be proactive in trying to react to those issues. But I think for the most part, it is good, and it's something new. I think the question for me, and I'm just going to say this, I feel like, and I'm sure Alex will have something to say about this, but I really do think, and I'm one person, I'm probably one person banging on the drum here, but I know there are loads of other people that think this, but they need to bring in a new mode. I feel like escalation is, although they've tried to change it and make it more strategic, I do think they need to bring in a new mode. I feel, watching escalation for the next year will again become boring for people to watch. No matter what they do to it, I just feel like it could potentially become boring to watch.
So do you think a case of replacing it, or do you think adding more in?
I'm
all for variety is the spice of life for me. I think that, maybe, and this is maybe throwing out the window some of the issues with King of the Hill. I think King of the Hill will be a good addition if it gets fixed.
Yeah.
Because some of the spawns, etc., are not great. But I know it's it's first week. These things do change. You've got to take your time with these things. But I think King of the Hill would be the mode for me personally.
I just honestly think that I'm not saying we should try and replicate. Well, yeah, actually, I am. I think we should try and replicate what Call of Duty do. Really, with the 3 competitive game modes, or at least 2 competitive game modes. I've talked to many people about this, and I've heard a lot of kind of noise on Twitter about this, but. Yeah, escalation is going to become boring if we're going to have to watch it for the next year, and that's facts. I don't feel it's the same. It's ultimately the same thing. Yes, it's different maps, it's maybe different play, but I feel like people will get bored of it after 6 months, 5 months, and that won't make for good viewership. I feel like if they can act on that now and try and bring in something, another competitive game type, then they should do that now. But maybe the sad truth is they may not be doing that to the next game. But yeah, that's my opinion on it, and that's just my personal opinion on it.
So before you jump in, Frew, I'll just say that I think, coming from my experience in Call of Duty, as Elliot now moves his chair again, my experience in Call of Duty is the fact that these 3 different game modes, yes, okay, it's great to have in for variation, but does it not make it harder for a casual fan to come along and sort of say, right, okay, why are they playing all these different game modes? You look at a game like CS, which for years, nearly, it might be over 20 years at this point, has played the very same game mode on the very same match that long. That hasn't got stale. So there's 2 sides to the coin, I feel, in that argument.
Yeah. It's difficult for me to kind of vocalize what I think about. I think I agree. I would love to see a second game mode. The problem I have with it is that I don't particularly know how we'd set that up in terms of the pro circuit, right? How do you manage picks and bans? How do you determine who gets to choose what? There's a lot of ways around it, but
You can get
with
around that.
three, yeah, with three, it's a
three,
bit
yeah.
easier than two.
Yes.
Um,
So you'd
and-
play
and
like 1 King of the Hill, 2 TDM just for the sake of it, and 2 Escalation, something like that.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
any
And
amount of whatever. Yeah.
just a variant that is kind of safe for all teams. The other thing is practice time as well. The more game modes you add, the more at an advantage full-time professional teams are, right? Teams like NRG, who, you know, their goal at the moment is to play Gears, is to win whatever, you know, pro circuit, whatever that is coming up. That is their job.
I just
You
want
have
to
a lot.
I was just going to say, I think there are ways of getting around it, though. Potentially, maybe only making certain modes for certain maps. Like
Yeah,
that.
you bring the
Gears 3.
pool in,
they
right?
bring like Koth. Yeah. So they had Koth for one certain map and then execution for the rest. So potentially, that's something that they can do. Pick the best map for escalation, put that in. Pick the best map for Koth.
Yeah.
I mean, for COD, it's the same. Like, not every single map has every single mode.
Yeah, that's. I think there are definitely
it's still
ways around
learning
that.
multiple game modes, and this kind of harks back to what you were saying about getting casual players in, right? Is that they no longer have to just learn one mode, which Escalation 2.0 is a very difficult mode to learn.
Yeah, it's not the easiest.
You've also got to think about King of the Hill and how do we spawn block and where do the rotations go.
I'll just say I can quite promise you this, and I'm just saying.
I think players would pick it up.
I don't think
it'd be
more casual players are playing more Koth and execution.
Yeah, because they'd see Koth and then get involved in it a little bit more, and then have to learn escalation.
I don't think casual players are playing escalation at the moment. I think that's the problem. I think casual players are already playing Koth and execution at the moment, or TDM.
I'd agree.
They're actually playing escalation. So that, you know, then the argument is then, okay, fine, the casual player needs to learn more, but actually, if you say bringing Koth to the competitive scene, wouldn't that then bring more casual players over to competitive?
Yeah, because you're driving a new player base into comp. I get you. Whether or not I agree it's King of the Hill that we need to bring in, I'm not sure I can agree on that one. I think we've already got enough respawns in Gears.
Fair enough.
I'd love to see it to go back to a single life mode. I think they're just so much more exciting to watch.
Different. So I think
it's a different vibe, right?
Yeah, you have to look at different game modes, and you have to. And again, I'm going back to Call of Duty, but they do hardpoint. They do hardpoint. They do search and destroy, and then various games come in with like either CTF, uplink, those sort of game modes. I think it has to be a change of pace on all sorts of levels. Like if you were going King of the Hill, that's your fast, frantic, non-stop pace game mode. You go on Escalation, that's slowed down to a point, but it's still sort of speak like a respawn game mode with an objective. Whereas I think it's very easy for someone to pick up how execution works or how TDM works. If you're a casual viewer, the easiest thing to come into it is, right, this team has this amount of lives, this team has this amount of lives, one who loses the most lives quickest loses. That's as simple as you can get when it comes to a game mode on any sort of shooter competitively on anything. You know, one who dies the most loses. There you go. How simple can it be? Whereas Escalation is a little bit more complicated. When it's explained, it's relatively simple. But at the same time, if you're Jimmy from North America and he's like, oh, what's this Gears of War 5 competitive pro league, and you click on it and you've got Escalation, you've never played it before, and you're like, right, okay, so what's going on?
How do I start?
Yeah, but whereas you got TDM execution, you're like, oh shit, well this is easy to understand. So I think that there's two sides to it. Whereas these
I guess that's our job, right? As commentators and casters, it's to explain it in that easy way that players who are coming into it as they can understand it, but also give the depth where more seasoned players can get some value out of watching.
What about from the rank system as well, taking King of the Hill out and making those people play escalation casually? I mean, I don't know if that's
these are all things that could be
potentially
it could work. I honestly think most of those people would just go play TDM, to be honest with you.
Probably. It's typically the most played game mode on all games.
Also, I think at that point you're starting to lose. I mean, you could maybe put it in the more casual side of things rather than the rank.
I'm just bouncing ideas.
But there's also there's Guardian in there, right? As well, Guardian's in there, and we've never even seen that from a comp.
Even touched it.
Exactly, and not many people have. But it's another interesting kind of game mode. It's TDM to a point, right? And then it becomes execution afterwards.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting. There's a lot of different game modes that we've seen in Gears over the years that potentially could work, but you got to try them out really to know. And
Yeah.
I think that's one thing we've not done enough of is kind of experiment and see what does work.
Yeah. Do you think that nobody's really put the point across of why don't we try this? Like,
I think people have put the point across. I think at the moment it's about establishing. You look at other games, right? You look at League, for example. They have their game mode. You know exactly what you're getting from that game mode, and there are things changing within that game mode that make it exciting. And that's kind of how I see Escalation has been built. You've got this kind of a format essentially that you can apply and change little bits of. Whether it's the right format, I don't know if anyone's asked that question. But
is it? You know, I mean, I don't get me wrong.
I don't mind it, but
do you know what? I love Escalation. I've loved casting it in Gears 4. You know, I do think it's a great competitive game type, and it is very strategic, and it brings a lot of great elements to the game. I just feel there are things that they still haven't ironed out from the first game, like for the fact, why is it 7 rounds apiece? Can't they make that any shorter? I mean, was that ever a question they asked themselves? I mean, watching, if it goes to around 13, 14, it is draining to watch. You know, someone sticks on their TV and goes onto Twitch and goes, oh, look, you know, let's have a look at this. And they get to round 4 and they're like, bloody hell, you know, what is going on? You know,
that's probably why a lot of people don't pick it up as well, right? Is because it does take so long to play, and it's a big time investment. It is like dropping into a game of League or Dota or whatever you play. That takes somewhere between 20 minutes and 45, 50 minutes. That's kind of what you get from Escalation.
And most of the time, it's best out of 3. So you're doing this 3 times in a row, and it can be a long old series when watching Escalation.
Yeah, I think the question I'd ask you, El, is if you've got one game to play for your life, right? Do you play Escalation? Do you play King of the Hill? Or do you play Execution? Right? What would you choose out of the 3 if you had to play just one game type? And I don't know if it'd be Escalation for me.
TDM.
I'd jump in free for all. I don't want teammates.
No. Yeah, obviously, yeah, Escalation.
Liability.
Escalation. As I say, I think it's a great game mode. I'm not taking anything.
Just want more spice in there.
Potentially, if there was a little bit more variety, it might make it better for viewers. You know, if there was a little bit more onus on trying to bring the casual gamer to play Escalation more ranked, then there potentially might be more of an interest from that side. So I just, you know, I can see it that casual gamers aren't playing Escalation, they're playing KOF, or they're playing TDM, or they're playing Guardian, or they're playing Escape. You know, they're not playing Escalation because they're getting into it, and it can be quite complicated. But I don't know. It's a hard one. But
it's a big question, right?
It's a massive question. Obviously, I'm not going to sort it out myself, and obviously, I'm sure TC, you know, are going to go with this game mode, and it's going to be great, and it's going to make for some great, you know, we're going to see some fantastic competitive things happen throughout the year, and some great stuff come of it. I just, you know, potentially these are questions that they could ask themselves, you know, when they come to the next game. What can we do then? What can we do with Escalation? Can we bring more variety to it? What can we do? And that's what I guess for me would, you know, potentially the questions they could ask themselves now. But yeah, you know, that's, you know, it's not. I think it's a great. I think it is a great game mode though, and I do think, you know, it's gotten better since Gears 4 with the kind of introduction of respawn lives and building weapons on certain hills and stuff. I do think it makes it more strategic, and it does make it more competitive as well. 100%. I'm not against it. I'm just saying maybe some variety around it might be something to consider in the future.
Yeah, agreed all around. But, you know, as a whole, I think that there's plenty of discussion to be had around this in the future as well. You know, as time does go on, will this be introduced? Can TC bring this in? Is this what everybody wants? Is it just us? You know, I think that ultimately we have decided that, you know, Escalation is a good game mode, but it wouldn't do any harm, I don't think, having other game modes in there. I think, you know, it depends what mold you want to go with. If you are TC in this one, do you want to go with commit to this one game mode so everybody can learn it, or do you go down the route where some of the games have went down where you mix it up? And I think I want to maybe just go slightly back to the point of where you were saying, well, it makes it harder for these other teams to learn certain game modes. If there is other game modes, of course. Is it not to the point of where if these other game modes are in, I feel like that this could give them a somewhat of an advantage at times, maybe if they concentrate a lot more on a game mode that and again, I'm going back to my Call of Duty history. Like,
I know where you're going with this, and I agree.
Talk about S&D guys.
Yeah.
See players who are typically very good at search and destroy, which is a slower paced game mode. You only have a certain amount of lives. If you practice that a lot, you play that a lot, then suddenly, you're in a really good spot to maybe take maps here and there. And then, there's different ways that it could work. But I think overall, I think as a whole, as we go to wrap up the episode here, we're relatively happy with Gears 5 so far.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
100%.
100%. I feel it's gonna be an interesting season. I can't wait for things like the Pro League to come about and LAN events to come about. I can't wait. I think it's gonna be brilliant. I think some interesting stuff's gonna happen. I do hope it's more competitive in the, rather than one team win every single competition. I do hope it's more competitive. But I do think with some of the introductions they've made into the game mode, they've made into the weapons, and they've made into the maps, I do feel like that is a possibility. The onus for me would be that these guys now, the teams that have kind of always been, maybe pushing the top, they need to just really take this opportunity to learn the game, stick to a team, move on, and really try and push to go to the top. Because who knows what will come of these opportunities we're receiving in Gears of War. There could be some absolutely fantastic opportunities. So yeah, really push on would be my message to the community. Push on, ladies.
Push on, indeed. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're seeing 32 teams in the EGL tournament tonight. That's a massive showing for Europe, and let's be honest, that's the max the bracket can hold. So we could have had maybe more. Are you
going to show the bracket, by the way?
I can have a look at it, actually. I can see
get that one on
it'd be good to see. But I mean, 32 teams, Europe showing up for the first prize tournament. I
can see the EGL admin is in the chat. Lisa's here, and I don't know if she wants more than 32. Look
at those. I'm not advocating for 64 just yet, Lisa, but I think if we get, continued engagement like this, it's a very good sign for Europe, and hopefully we can translate that to teams at LAN, and hopefully that can, push forward into the future to get more majors over here, more events over here. And yes, it's definitely a new start for Gears in Europe.
Just having a look at the bracket. I'm not going to be able to bring it up. I just don't want to bring it up. Well, it might look a bit rubbish if I bring it over on the page. But either way, in absolute no surprise, EU's finest are into the semi-finals. They're going up against a team labelled as Nice Mert, which is Jack Reaction, Marsh, Ashens, J Rage, and Co. So that's in the semi-finals
who's playing
now.
Who's
and
playing?
That's going up against EU's finest, which is, of course, the boys from last season, which is Craze, Crim, Hydro and Phelpsy, and Sinfex going. And Elliot, sorry that you did miss that. Those guys are.
Who are Jack Reaction playing?
Jack Reaction and Co are playing against EU's finest.
Oh my! In the semis.
Very tasty semi-final.
So it'll be interesting
tasty,
to see. As we do go on, these cups are on every week. We've already put up the one, if any of you guys are watching, for next week. So we are going to be commentating over some next week. I think it was just a little bit difficult for us to get it sorted this week, but we will be commentating over something next week. We'll shorten the discussion now. We'll have more gameplay for you guys, even though everyone wants to hear everything that Elliot has to say and everything that Frew has to say about anything in the world of Gears of War. But either way, some good games going on. I think you're very right. It's a good turnout from Europe, and it's nice to see. So as I said, that'll be back on next week. Probably just for 32 teams again, just for Lisa's sanity more than anything. But the bracket is in there as well. The other semi-final isn't quite decided, so it's some lads are already in there, and I'll tell you who that exactly is.
Chidwick's team, right?
Okay, so Chidwick and Cole. Let's have a look. So Dancer Primary and Nestia, Crumpappy and Chidwick. Yep. And they'll be going up against Ready, No One, or Gears of War 4 Ed.
Yeah, the Italians.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Ready, No One's the Italians, so it's Ryzen and Strikers. We've seen them at EGL tournaments many a times before.
And Gears of War 4 Ed is Valenci, Michael Tez, Hazardous, Agres, Sonic, etc. So,
do you reckon we could stream that semi-final Jack Reaction used final? Do you reckon we get that streamed? What do you reckon, man?
I think it'll be hard to
let's see what the chat says.
The game's already going.
What the chat says.
The game's already going.
Oh yeah, maybe next week. We'll get it again next week.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have next week's tournament available.
I'm only joking.
You just throw me under the bus here. I was like, I'm not ready for it. Not remotely ready.
He's like, nah. He's like literally like this. We can't do it.
Can't do that now.
Next week.
The Xbox is off.
But yeah, we're gonna have plenty of gameplay coming up on this show as well. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, though. We're gonna do this every single week. I'm gonna be having you guys in here and committing all of your time to talking with me. All of your time. We're gonna have. Yeah, Breck, I'm sorry. I would love to stream it, but right now we're not ready for it. We will be streaming some gameplay next week. Maybe give teams some time to get into the game before we go and show it out there anyway. But boys, any final thoughts from yourselves around this episode? I'm glad you came on. Thank you very much for showing up. Toby, I don't know where he is. He hasn't shown up.
We don't need him.
For some reason, he said he was dropping his girlfriend off somewhere. She's going away for a really long time.
Yeah, she's
somewhere.
off to uni.
I tell you what, commitment. Honestly, he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have it to Gears of War.
Listen, I mean, I'm sorry, Frew, you go first.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been too long. I've been out the scene. I took a 6-month break. I stayed in a cabin, grew my beard really long. Had a pet dog.
It's like Castaway.
And it beats every day. But I'm back in now. Yeah, we go again. No, I'm joking. It's great to be on the show, and I can't wait. If I'm given the opportunity, I really can't wait to see what's going to happen in this, this season. I'm really interested to see what teams do well. If EU's finest can carry on, to be the best team in Europe, or if anyone can contend them.
I hope so. I
love spending time with you, Tunn, all the time.
Of course. Thank you.
And I'm here every week if you want me. So yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
as long as you stop moving your camera during the broadcast, though.
Next time I'll be it. I'll still do it on my laptop because then I have a camera so you can see me. But I'll have it in it.
It's more so the moving of the chair which bursts my eardrums every single time.
Yeah, apologies.
We'll get him trained.
We'll get him trained in. Anything from you, Frew?
No, enjoyed it. I think it's been an interesting first show. It's been always good to discuss Gears with you boys, and I think as we start to progress with games in Europe and we start to kind of get a bit of an idea of the pecking order, we're going to have a lot more content to cover. Likewise, getting into games will be super exciting, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more.
Yeah, we'll have to get our lips around some casting anyway. But thank you very much to everybody who did come into the stream and follow along. I said every single week we will be coming here with this content here on Changing Gears. That was episode number 1. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you for the next episode next week.